You bought your home a few years ago. You got a great interest rate, maybe 3% or maybe even lower. And on paper, everything looks perfect. But something changed. Maybe your family grew. Maybe your job moved. Maybe the house just doesn't fit anymore. So you start thinking about making a move. You pull up Zillow, you run some numbers, and then you see it. 6.5% interest rate. You close the laptop. There's no way I'm giving up my 3% interest rate for that. I hear this every single week for homeowners across the northern Seattle area here. And here is what nobody's telling you about. That 3% interest rate that feels like it's protecting you, for a lot of families and individuals, it's quietly becoming the thing that's trapping them. And today I want to answer the question I get asked more than any other question right now. Should I sell my home or should I rent it out? Because the answer is not what most people think, in my opinion. And it starts with understanding what your low rate is actually costing you. My name is Mina, and I'm a real estate broker here in the northern Seattle area, and I've spent the last 7 years helping families and individuals buy, sell, and build wealth through real estate. And I want to be clear, this video is not for investors. It's not for people trying to flip properties or time the market. This is for the owner-occupant, the family that bought their home, did everything right, and locked in a great interest rate, and now the home no longer fits who they are. Maybe you've got another kid, someone's sharing a room that they shouldn't be, maybe your commute is an hour away, and it's really just grinding you down. Or maybe you're working from home, and you just have no space to think. Or maybe you're ready to upsize or downsize, or just start a new chapter somewhere else. Point is, you know you need to move, but that interest rate is sitting there like the perfect reason not to. So let's actually work through this together. Quick disclaimer though, before we get into any numbers, nothing in this video is financial, legal, or tax advice. Every situation is different. Before you make any major decision like this, please talk to your lender, your CPA, and your real estate professional who knows your specific situation. I'm here to give you the framework and happy to help you if you're in the Seattle area. But my main goal in this video is to help you think about this clearly, not to make the decision for you. First, and I mean this sincerely, your low rate is real. It matters. I'm not here to dismiss it. If you locked in a 3% interest rate or lower, that is genuinely one of the most valuable financial positions a homeowner can hold right now. You have access to cheap capital that nobody buying today gets to have. So I completely understand what you're holding and why you're holding onto it. I'm with you in the same boat. But here's the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes. What is the rate actually costing you to keep? Because I've watched many individuals protect their rate while they're quietly absorbing costs that they were never tracking. And when we finally sit down and look at the full picture together, the math is almost never what they thought it was. So let me show you what I mean with real numbers from this market. Hidden cost number one. The average commute in the greater Seattle area is about 45 minutes to 1 hour each way. That's up 2 hours a day, or 10 hours a week, or over 40 hours a month. So if your life has changed since you bought the home, for example, your job moved or your kids got older and their priorities shifted, you might be burning 500 hours a year sitting in traffic just to protect a mortgage payment. I'm not putting a dollar amount on that. You know what your time is worth. Hidden cost number two. This one sneaks up on people. Your mortgage payment is frozen and your interest rate is locked, right? But your property tax, those move with the market. The assessments usually follow appreciation, which means a lot of homeowners who bought the home at $500,000 are now being taxed on values closer to $700,000 to $800,000. Add on top of that an insurance market that's tightening nationally. Premiums are climbing and the coverage is shrinking. So your actual monthly housing cost is going up, even though your rate never really moved. Yes, your rate is locked, but your total housing cost is not. Hidden cost number three. The average Seattle homeowner who bought in 2020 and 2021 is sitting somewhere between $200,000 to $350,000 in equity. That is real serious wealth. But here's the reality. That equity is trapped inside your walls. It's not liquid. Just like the stock market, it's not realized. It will go up and down with the market. And on top of that, it's not really working for you other than paying down your equity shares. So it's not growing at a pace that it was during the boom years. and it's just sitting there while you squeeze into a home that no longer fits your life or your lifestyle. So now you've got a decision to make. And most people frame it as this: do I stay or do I go? But you've already decided that you need to move, and the real question now becomes more specific. What do you do with the home you're leaving behind? Do you sell it and cash out your equity, or do you hold on to it, keep that beautiful low interest rate, and turn it into a rental? Because that decision, sell or rent, changes everything. The math is completely different, and the risk is also completely different, and the right answer is different for every homeowner. So let me walk you through both sides honestly. Let's start with renting, because on the surface, it sounds like the best of both worlds, right? You keep the low interest rate and you generate income. You build long-term wealth through appreciation and debt pay down, and you still get to move into the home that your family actually needs. Sounds perfect, right? And in the right situation, it is absolutely true. Here's what the math looks like though. Say your payment is about $2,200 a month, and in today's market, the home rents for $3,200 to $3,500 a month. A lot of people stop there and say, great, that's $800 to $1,000 a month in profit, but that's not your real number. Because being a landlord is not mortgage minus rent. You've got vacancy, which is the month between the tenants where nothing comes in. And you've got repairs, fixing the roof and the furnace and whatever else breaks. And you got property taxes and insurance on top, which continues to climb. And you should probably hire property managed on top of that. So that's another 8 to 10% off the top. So if you run those numbers, that $800 margin drops to $400 or maybe $200. In some cases, negative. So this does not mean renting is the wrong move. It just means you have to run the numbers, not the best case scenario, and plug them into your P&Ls or to your personal economy dashboard, which I discussed in a previous video. But here is the most clarifying question I know. If you had that $250,000 sitting in cash today, would you buy that same exact house as a rental property? Same location, same condition, same risk? Would you buy it? Because if the answer is no, you have to ask yourself, why are you keeping it? And that question cuts through a lot. Now let's look at selling, because this is the option most people are emotionally resistant to, even when the numbers make sense. When you sell, you unlock or realize the equity and put it to work. Let's say you bought the home at $500,000, 3% interest rate, 5% down, and around $2,200 a month payment. Now that house is worth $800,000 today, so you have about $300,000 in equity. The home you actually need though, with the more space and the better location that fits better for your family, let's say it's about $900,000. Now there are all sort of selling costs such as excise tax and escrow, etc., but we'll keep those for another video, and we'll just simplify the numbers for the sake of this video and say that your net equity is about $250,000. Now you put that as a down payment to your $900,000 home that you want to purchase at today's interest rate, and that puts you around $4,200 to $4,500 a month. Now that's a jump of $2,000. I know that number lands really hard. I've seen it on people's faces across the table from me a lot of times. But let me put that in perspective for you. What if you didn't have that equity to bring to the table at all? What if you were buying that same $900,000 home from scratch? No equity rollover. You'd be looking at a monthly payment closer to $6,500 to $7,000 a month. So your equity can sit in the house with the low interest rate and earn you $800 a month, which most of it can burn through CapEx or the upkeep costs that we talked about earlier, or it can literally save you $2,000 to $2,500 every single month on your next home. It's the most powerful tool that you actually have in this market right now. Also buys you the right home, the right commute, the right space for your family right now. And here's the timing reality nobody is talking about. Right now in Seattle, well-priced homes are actually selling under 2 weeks at over asking price, by the way, with multiple offers. And that's what the market looks like, even with the rates being at 6.5%. So the moment the rates drop to that magical number everyone is waiting for, every homeowner who's been holding tight will likely list all at the same time, and every buyer also that's waiting on the sidelines will probably rush in at the same time. So you're not moving into a friendlier environment. It will probably be the most competitive environment that we'll ever see. So the right window might actually be right now. So how do you decide? Here are 5 questions. I walk through those questions with every single client right now. 1, does this home still fit your life? Not just on paper. If it's too small, too far, or no longer aligned with where your family is going, a cheap payment is not always cheap when it's costing you quality of life every single day. which in turn is what allows you to create more quality income. Number two, what's the real cash flow? Not mortgage minus rent. The real number after vacancy, repairs, taxes, insurance, capital expenses, and management fees. And you could certainly take into account the principal that is paying off your debt, but also make sure that total liability cost for both homes doesn't put you in a financial position where you end up losing one of those two homes. If the numbers are only working on paper with the assumption that everything will go perfectly, then you're not investing, my friend. You're gambling on perfection. And again, that's fine if you want to gamble, but just make sure you discuss your exit strategy so the gamble doesn't cost you the very reason that contributed to making you wealthy, which is that equity in your first home. And that takes us to number three. What is your equity actually doing? If that $250,000 is sitting in your walls generating 2 to 3% after real expenses, is that honestly the best use of your capital right now? And four, do you actually want to be a landlord? Some people are built for it. Others hate every maintenance call, especially those 2 a.m. text messages about a broken pipe. So yeah, that stress has a real cost. So just be well aware of the cost of that. And number five, what is the opportunity cost of waiting? Because every month you stay is a month you're not in the right home, not just financially. It's in space, in peace, in quality of life, in the potential of growing your production engine that we've talked about in a previous video. That has a real value too. So here's the bottom line. A 3% mortgage is very valuable. Nobody should pretend that it's not. But the rate is only one part of that equation. So let me end with this. What is this house doing for your life right now? What is your equity doing for your future? And what is it costing you to just keep it locked? Not just in money, but in time and flexibility and the quality of life. I've sat across from individuals who waited for rate, for the perfect moment, for things to feel more certain. And some of them made the right call. But some others came back a year later and the home they wanted had gone up another $80,000 and they were still having the same kitchen table conversation. Your rate is not the ceiling of your life. If you're a Seattle homeowner sitting on equity and trying to figure out whether to sell, rent, or make your next move, reach out. Let's run your actual numbers together. Not with pressure, with an honest look at what actually makes sense for you. Links in the bio, comments are open. I read every single one. And if this hit close to home, please give it a like and share it with someone who keeps closing that laptop. This is Mina. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe for more and I'll see you next time.